Section 7.1 starts our whole chapter of Chapter 7, which we're talking about decimals. So to start with, we're going to talk about the word decimal. The word decimal comes from the Latin word meaning 10. So this DEC at the beginning is what you're getting the 10 from on the Latin word. Okay? So the language that we use for decimals, we're going to talk about in terms of some language that's used for whole numbers as well. So I'm going to draw it out like this. It could go out further to the right or to the left. But just as a reminder, this location, the very first location that I've drawn here, here's my decimal point here in the middle. What is that place called as a placeholder? That's the tens place. What is this placeholder called? Ones, or you might hear it called units. Depends on the curriculum you're using. Now we're going to move across the decimal place to the first location after the decimal point. What is that place called? That is the tenths. THS place. Tenths. How about the next one? That is hundredths. Again, THS. What comes after hundredths? Thousandths. What's the next one? It is the 10,000ths. And the last one that I've got drawn on here, not the last one that exists, but the last one that I've got drawn on here would be what? 100 thousandths. You might notice that there are dashes between 10 and thousandths and 100 and thousandths, which is proper English. That actually does have a hyphen between them. Just for the sake of having said it, what would come after 100 thousandths? Millionths. That's right. Yeah, and I think you have a question that you're going to use that actually goes one decimal longer, so it would be millionths place. All right, so what we're going to do first is we're going to take a numerical decimal with a decimal point in there, and we're going to write it properly, okay? And then we're going to go the other direction. We're going to take the written form and we're going to turn it into a number, a numerical form. All right, so the first one is 32, and what we say in real life now is you say something like this: 32.42636 or 32.4236, right? Or the age we're in, you might even say dot instead of point. Some people do, okay? So we're going to say it correctly. We say the first part correctly. What do you say with the 3 and the 2? 32. 32. So you say that part right. So we're going to write that one down to start with. So this is going to start out as 32. And that does have a hyphen between it. Do you remember what we say when we get to the decimal point if we're saying it properly? And. Yes, we do. And then what happens next is we write the number 4236 as though, to start with, it is the number 4236 before a decimal place. What would I say if I saw 4236 all by itself? 4,236. Perfect. That's what comes next. 4,000. There's no decimal point there, or there's no hyphen between 4 and 1,000. 4,000. Sorry, not a comma. 200. $36, and 36 does have a hyphen between it. And then what we say is we say the location where the 6, that is our last non-zero value, actually falls. What decimal location is that?
10,000.
That is 10,000ths. So then we say 10,000ths. This 32 and 4,236 10,000ths. We don't talk that way anymore, do we? And mathematically, that is what that number actually is. So that's what we're going to work with. Now, what if we go the other direction? What if we see 536 and 76 thousandths? What is the first thing we should probably look for in the way that that's worded? The and. Why? Yeah, that separates it into the pieces that come before the decimal versus the after the decimal part. So if I've got this decimal right here then for the and, I know 536 comes before that, which means what am I going to write?
536.
Right, 536 decimal point. The part that comes after it says I have 76, which we know we're going to write as 7 and 6, but it has to end in the thousandth place. How many decimals to the right am I going to go?
3.
3. So I need 3 locations, and I need the number 7, 6, so the 6 falls in the last place, which means what's going to go in the missing location?
0.
There's a 0. So the way that we think about this is 536.076, if we're talking in terms of the notation we're seeing. Okay, you guys remember this? Good. All right, let's do one more. All right, the next thing that we're going to look at is called base 10 expanded form. I'm going to show you what I want you to do. I'm also going to show you what the book does, because there is a difference in this place, and I'll tell you why I want you to do it versus how the book is showing it. Sound good? Okay. Base 10 form, and I'm going to write out the different values that we just saw before. Base 10 form gives values to each of these locations in terms of how much it is in terms of base 10. So you know that this is the ones place and the tens place, for example. And you know if you went one more to the left, it'd be the hundreds place, right? Hundreds, like 100. Well, on the left-hand side, the right-hand side, excuse me, the first place we call the tenths place because it is 1/10 of a unit. And often it's helpful to think of that in terms of like a dime, right? A dime is 1/10 of a dollar. The next location is 1/100th, like a penny. A penny is worth 1/100th of a dollar. After that, I lose my ability to talk in terms of money because we only have 2 decimal places in our money system. But the process works the same way. The next process, or the next place is 1/1000th, so we can write it as 1/1000. The next one would be 1/10,000, and the last one would be 1/100,000. This is the notation that we're going to use. So we're going to do this problem in example 3 in this notation, and then we'll talk about this note at the bottom of the page. So here is the number that I'm being given. It's 103, and then there's a decimal point, and then a 0 and a 3. Okay, so it's 103 and 3/100ths. Notice on the left-hand side I say 103. I don't say 103. We kind of use that slang sometimes ourselves. I remember getting in trouble. Like, seriously, my teacher kind of said, like, I'm never going to understand how to do math kind of thing if I couldn't figure out how to use the word and properly. Because I would say 103. Okay? It's actually 103. So the 103, we want to think about as this separating this. And this one works really well to talk in terms of money. Okay? So the 1 here is 100. The 3 here is 3. And then I have the decimal point with the 3 separated as 3/100ths because I'm in the 300ths location. Okay? Now, what you would do next is you would write this as 1 times 100, because if you're thinking about it in terms of money, I've got one $100 bill. Okay? I'm going to write in the placeholders. I have 0 tens. That's what's missing here. This is the 0 that's occurring right there. It's a 0 in the tens place. 0 tens. And then I have 3 ones. I have 0 1/10ths. That's like 0 dimes. And I have 3 1/100ths, which would be like saying 3 pennies. This final form right here is what I'm looking for. You don't have to necessarily write the form before unless you want to. Unless you want to think about it in that way. But this is the expanded form that I'm going to be looking to see. Now, if you look in the back of the book, it's not going to write it that way. It's going to be close, though. What it's going to do is it's going to change this 100 to, say, 10 squared. It's going to write the 10 as 10 to the 1. I totally said that. Yeah, no, I said it right, 10 to the 1. It's going to write the 3 here. It's going to write this 1 as 10 to the 0, which we know it is. I mean, we've talked about the fact that 1 is 10 to the 0. And it's going to write this 1/10. Instead of writing it as 1/10, it's going to write it as 10 to the negative 1, because negative 1 takes a 10, puts it in the denominator as an exponent, right? That's what an exponent would do. And it's going to write the 100 as 10 to the negative 2. There's nothing incorrect about this. It is perfectly correct. The problem that I have with it in terms of the content you're learning in this class is it's rather non-intuitive, and it's not what you would do at an age that you guys are going to be teaching. You're not going to be talking in terms of negative exponents. And in particular, when you work with decimals, you're going to be working a lot with money. So it makes much more sense to talk about it in terms of a fractional 1/10 as 1/10 of a dollar instead of it being 10 to the negative 1. Do you see what I'm saying? So I would like for you to write it in the middle here as I put in the box instead of the way that it would be putting it in the back of the book. Okay? All right, everybody good? All right.